when you know if you participate, you're actually giving legitimacy to the process, which is the case here. So those who are in a position to say, well, this process is flawed and is illegal, surely they must say, no, we are not going to participate, and stick to that position. We have got an alternative answer here. The MDC believe they have got winning in rigged election strategies. In other words, even if ZANU-PF tries to rig the elections, they've got strategies to win rigged elections. If you believe in these winning in rigged election strategies, then yes, there is no circumstance you can justify boycotting the elections because you can still win them. Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF has been rigging elections for the last 43 years. So the question one has got to ask then is, why is the opposition, and in this case here we're talking of the MDC, Triple C, they have been now on the political stage for the last 23 years. Why is it that for the last 23 years they failed to win the elections? Their so-called winning in rigged election strategies have failed to produce the end result, i.e. deliver an MDC or Triple C government. The truth of the matter is, these so-called strategies in winning rigged elections are just a nonsense. That's hot air. None of those strategies have worked. One of their flagship strategy during this election cycle has been that we will register our supporters in millions, mass voter registration. It was going to be followed by mass voting, and then we'll protect the vote. But as of May last year, the ZEC had only registered 250,000 new voters. Even if you assume they were all Triple C supporters, this is just a quarter of what Triple C themselves had said they were going to register, i.e. 6 million. Sorry, 4% of what they were going to register. So the first 4 years they had to register their supporters, they only managed to register 4%. What has happened since May to now, we don't know. But it is not likely that they are going to catch up, because the people who do the registration are ZEC. And ZEC has never been working for any other than the ruling party. And we all know that in the past, when it comes to registering voters in the opposition areas, like urban centers, ZEC has put all manner of hurdles. It could be as has been the case these last 4 years, there's just been too few voter registration centers in the urban centers. For the first 4 years, there were only 2 voter registration centers in the whole of Harare, a city of 2 million people. In the past, we know the SEC has put all manner of hurdles. You have to produce not only your national ID, you have also to produce evidence of where you say you live, the water bill, or a telephone bill with your name on it and address. If you're a tenant or a child or a partner and the bills are in the other, your partner's name, you could not register. Even if you do manage to register, we also know that in the past, when you come to check in the voters roll, your name is still not there. Even if it is in the voters roll, the national one, when the day of voting comes, you go to a polling station where you think your name is on that the voters roll polling station. You turn up there and you're told it's not there, so you can't vote. So by 30th of May last year, we already knew that MDC's or Triple C's so-called flagship strategy of mass voter registration was dead in the water. They'd only registered 4%. So what is the other reason why they keep on participating regardless? Well, in this case here, they continue participating because they've got their own reasons for doing so. They know ZANU-PF is allowing the opposition to win a few seats, entice them to participate by making sure they win a few seats. And this is what the opposition are after. As long as they are allowed to win these few seats, they will participate. They are no different from what Abel Muzorewa and Dawaning Stole did in 1978, when they agreed to the internal settlement. They didn't care that the internal settlement reduced the blacks to second-class citizens as long as they got into power and started enjoying the benefits of power. The same applies to our friends here, Triple C. They don't care that the election are rigged by ZANU-PF as long as they get a share of some of the seats. They share in the spoils of power. This is what we've got to avoid. ZANU-PF is rigging these elections. And as long as the party is able to rig the elections and have a 2/3 majority in parliament or thereabout, and the presidency, the case of bad governance will continue. This is the scourge that we've got to address. This is the problem we've got to deal with. And unless we implement the reforms, we will never have free, fair, and credible elections. And it looks like as long as the opposition gets these free seats, they will continue participating in these flawed electoral processes. how do we get out of this mess? I believe it is time that we stood up to the opposition and tell them in no uncertain terms that they are lying about all this winning in rigged election strategies. It's just a feeble excuse to justify participating in a flawed electoral process. In the case of Chamisa and company, they had the opportunity actually to implement the democratic reforms during the GNU of 2008 to 2013. They failed to do so because they were comfortable. And ever since, they've decided to forget all about reforms and just be content with whatever share of the spoils of power they are able to get from ZANU-PF. And we should be smart enough to realize this is a situation that is totally unacceptable for the country. We have got to end the scourge of rigged elections and bad governance. And the only way to do so is to stop participating in these flawed processes and say so. And make it very clear that the process itself is flawed and illegal. And make sure that the opposition is exposed for what they are, the sellouts they are. They have absolutely no political credibility. Armed with those two things, i.e., the evidence that the process is flawed, and two, that the opposition is participating out of greed, we can then turn around to organizations like SADC and tell them, how can you endorse ZANU-PF victory, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that the opposition is participating out of greed. Deny ZANU-PF political legitimacy will bring us back to the situation we were in 2008, when ZANU-PF was forced to accept the global political agreement and the need to implement democratic reforms. The GNU that came out of that agreement was supposed to implement those reforms. It did not. This time, we'll see to it that the GNU implements those reforms. Only when we have implemented the reforms can we have a fair chance of holding free, fair, and credible elections and end this case of rigged elections. Thank you very much, and good night.